I'm going to present on the latest market developments on the global cable industry and on the Middle East. Then obviously over to Mr. Shaw, his expertise on the Middle East itself, and then over to Volker. So I'm Director of Research for Wire and Cable at Integer, based in London. Sure you know us. This is our third conference here in the Middle East. So we'll just run through. I'm going to run through introduction. We'll have a look at the global economy, some political uncertainty. That's going to be covered by Andrew Shaw as well. Look at raw materials, what's happening to prices and why. World wire and cable markets, key trends and developments. We'll zoom in on the Middle East, looking at supply and some of the demand trends, and then some conclusions and questions. But we'll probably, in terms of time, we'll try and move to Mr. Shaw. Okay, so we'll just run through. So have a look at the world economy, some of the short-term trends. Obviously, last year was volatile. We can just skip through. We can just see obviously the instability in the region, obviously the Ukraine, the attempted coup in Turkey, which even had a direct impact on some of the owners of the cable companies in Turkey. And for us, Brexit, which we'll look at, all sorts of things going to, lots of implications for the UK. President Trump, and obviously poor old Mrs. Merkel having to kind of cope with all these changes and kind of keep the EU together. So again, last year was volatile, but at the moment 2017 seems to be just the same. But in the background, one of the things that we track, I've taken this from Yardini. We could have plotted the data off the Reuters data we get or Bloomberg, but it just shows you, if you actually look at this blue line, you can see it was pretty grim. This is the global number. This is the summation of all of the manufacturing PMIs in the world. If you get them all together and aggregate them, you get this JP Morgan index, and anything above 50 is an expansion. So we can see back in 2012, this is the global economy, slowing. This is the EU in crisis, etc., and the slow US. And actually, we've now got, coincidentally, most of the economies globally actually growing. I think one of the questions was, if you go back to May, June last year, a lot of people were seeing these numbers in the cable business. I think we went to the kind of the LME week through kind of September, October. People had started to see demand pick up. And now we see in some regions, this blue line is actually showing you it's actually been heading towards stronger numbers. If we just drill in and just see what's supporting this. So we can actually see all of the key developed markets. You can actually see the US, this blue line, very, very strong recovery here from kind of maybe, what's that, July, August. This strong recovery. And actually, the UK, we had this red line here, it dips, the Brexit vote, everyone starts really panicking, but actually then it starts recovering. And actually, intriguingly, even the Eurozone, if you actually look at some of the numbers from Germany now, we're getting German inflation. It looks like some of the parts of the market are actually almost approaching capacity, very low unemployment rates. So again, all of these key markets, even Greece is starting just to turn around. And again, you can see Japan. So all of this leads through to a demand for cable, ultimately. You can see, if we look at some of this is one of the emerging market indices. So this includes Saudi, Russia, the BRICS. You can just see in negative territory here, but at least it's in positive territory. Obviously, from the panel we heard about Saudi. This is going to cause. We're just looking at the world market now. That's moving away from Brexit. This gives you an example of, this is cable demand. You can get this data from us. It just shows you the fall in the copper price. Was up at above, the market 2014 was above 200 billion. You can just see the combination of lower volumes, switch to aluminium, and the copper price and volumes, that we're down at this kind of level. But we're predicting a combined increase in metal price in 2017 and also an increase in volumes. So then we're thinking, well, what was 2016 like? So able, but also lots of infrastructure spending. Again, in the long run, can it sustain that level of demand? And then you get down to a demand. So it just gives you some idea of where the different countries' cable demand. Again, you can just see this China dominating. So, I think you probably, if you've been to some of our events before, you'll have seen this. It's always quite striking. So this is the number of cable factories, and that's 8,000, more than 8,000 in China, and actually 2,000 of those just make our UL electronic wire. So, and I think people will talk about consolidation. We think over the next 20 or 30 years, this will crunch down to less than 4,000. There's no way that 8,000 can survive in China in the long run. But then you can just see the other factories. We've actually been doing some work. So one of the things, if you've been to some of the wire shows, again, we mentioned there were more than 30 new factories were being built per month in China between 2003 and 2010. So if you were a supplier of machinery going to the wire show every 2 years, you were having hundreds of new cable companies come up and approach you at the stand. But that's now stopped. Just this level of investment in China is not happening. Where it is happening, where we've seen, for our sins, we were asked to map all the Indian cable companies, and the thing is, there's lots and lots of them. There's 1,000, and 600 are just small-scale kind of mom-and-pop operations. But we have found that out of those, sometimes we're seeing investment now, and larger companies arise. So we're seeing some significant capacity going in. The question is that sustainable? And that's one of the questions for us. This is just some of the maps. So we've been mapping. This is the actual location of all the factories. A lot of our customers, we would produce lists of cable companies, and they said, we want the geolocations. We want to be able to map this data. So we produce addresses. So one of our tasks is, we've been doing this in the States. We've been doing this in Germany. In some cases, this might be an associated product, might be optical fiber or copper rod. So we're mapping them, mapping the output, which is quite useful. And our task was to go to India. We looked at 1,000 companies, and this is just some of the key companies, just for you to see in perspective. Cable maker going into Oman, and 1 or 2 new smaller producers. And so some of these are private, so we actually have to kind of talk to the companies. I guess one of the fastest rises that we saw was Bara Cable, which has gone to a plus $600 million in cable within the last decade. So that's one of the biggest changes in the landscape, and obviously Alpha and I as well investing. So not a major market 10 years ago to a significant market in 2017. So again, this is just a quick bit of data on the budget assumptions. This is trying to see, you can see the budget for capital expenditure in 2016, and then this is some of the latest data suggesting that the budget will be up. But again, we have to find out. And again, this is just some of the latest PMIs, the PMI indices. You can just see bottoming out in September and then actually kind of picking up with some kind of stronger numbers. And even some of the people here have been saying they're getting kind of strange order levels, patchy orders or unexpected orders. So again, something that we're here to find out about is actually what people expect for the next few months in the region. Right, so that's it. Thank you very much. And you can ask me we can download the data or chat to me, and I'll give you some supporting data. So thank you very much. And now we're going to welcome to the stage, unless there's any